I got back into vinyl again recently. You will not be surprised to learn. Actually, it's probably accurate to say I got into vinyl for the first time recently. I remember vinyl from when I was a kid, but when I was a kid, vinyl was just a way to listen to music. I wasn't into vinyl. I was just listening to music. The records weren't special. In fact, at the time, they were very much not special. Most of the records I bought in the 80s were cheap reprints of albums from the 70s. No gatefold covers, no lyrics, generic sleeves on the inside. So my memory of records is, it's not great. They didn't sound good either because they were often printed very cheaply. You could literally see through some of them. I got my first CD player at 15 and that was the end of vinyl. Never looked back, never missed it. I listen to music all the time. There's almost always something playing at work, in the car, at home, and almost always it's Spotify or YouTube. Music is something in the background, and these days a song has to hook me on the first listen, more or less, or it won't get a second listen. But when I was a kid, it was normal for me to listen to the same album 4 or 5 times before I decided if I liked it. And if I liked it, I'd listen to it another 20 or 30 times before I felt like I really understood it, like it had started to reveal its secrets to me. That's how my favorite music became my favorite music, by listening to it over and over. That's why I started buying vinyl. It's not because I think it sounds better. I have a ridiculous audio setup at home. I can listen to high-quality digital audio at absurd sample and bit rates. And I do. And what I find is, depending on mixing and mastering, sometimes the digital sounds better, sometimes the vinyl sounds better. So I'm not one of those weirdos who claims that vinyl has mystic properties. I don't listen to vinyl because I think it always sounds better. I listen to it because of the ritual it forces me to go through. I have to choose an album, no playlists, and put it on the record player, and then just sit and listen to it. Actually listen to it. Do nothing else. No reading, no writing, no cleaning the house. And here's the thing. I can't pause it. I can't rewind it. I can't skip a track. I mean, I could get up and lift the stylus and aim for the groove where I left off, but that's sufficiently annoying that I don't. I just sit there and listen to the whole thing. It is a very different experience, and it's had a huge impact on what music I like. So if I want music, I use Spotify or YouTube. I go to vinyl because I want to listen to an album. If all I want is music, there's way easier and cheaper ways to get it. It's about an experience. Just like candles. If you were a candle maker in the 11th century, you were in the illumination business. People came to you because they needed light. Now, we still have candles, but today people buy them because they want a candle. There are way better ways to illuminate a room. We buy candles because we want the experience of a candle and candlelight and the associations that come with it. It's darker. It flickers. It's romantic. It's harder to light a room with candles. It shows you went to a lot of effort. Just like movies. In the 1930s and 40s, movie theaters were the entertainment medium of the age. Everyone went to the movies. Per capita, movie attendance would never be as big. In 1930, 65% of Americans went to the movies every week. That's where our idea of a movie palace comes from, of red carpets and gold interiors with pillars. Because once upon a time, if you wanted entertainment, you went to the movies. Movies were a big deal. Folks didn't look up movie times, newspapers didn't publish them. The movie was a feature that ran on a loop with some cartoons, a newsreel, and serial science fiction shorts like Flash Gordon. You and your friends would head to the theater after work and pick a movie on the spot. You'd walk into the middle of something and sit and watch until you recognized you'd seen this part before, and that's how you knew you'd seen the whole loop. There's a now obscure phrase people used to use when they wanted to excuse themselves from a discussion that had become repetitive. This is where I came in. That's where that phrase comes from, recognizing the loop of content in the movie theater. Once TV came around, that was it for the movies. Per capita movie attendance started tanking in the 1960s, and it never recovered. It never will recover. I mean, people still go to the movies, but most Americans only go once or twice a year. So folks say, they always say, well, I'd go to the movie theater more if it were cheaper, if they didn't have to plan ahead, if there weren't kids there, if people weren't using their phones, if the food was cheaper, if they didn't miss part of the movie when they went to the bathroom. If, in other words, it was more like watching a movie at home. If people want to be entertained, they stay home. The home experience is in all ways better. You can watch basically any movie ever made anytime you want to. You can pause, rewind, or ditch a movie in the middle and watch something else. Movie theaters will never be able to compete. We go to the theater not because we want to be entertained, but because we want the experience of going to a theater. This is what folks like Steven Spielberg and Quentin Tarantino are talking about when they compare movies to Netflix. Netflix should not be up for Oscars, they say. They should get Emmy Awards because it's TV. This argument doesn't make a lot of sense to most people because most people think of a movie as being a story with a beginning, middle, and an end, and about 2 hours with no commercials. But those directors mean something else when they talk about movies. They mean 24 frames per second in a theater. They feel like movies were meant to be seen with a group of people in a theater, and I agree. TV is a personal experience. It's psychological. Film is a social experience. Your reaction to a movie, how much you like it, how much it scares you, how much you laugh, is different when you're part of a large group of people. It's the reason I always get depressed when I hear someone complaining about people clapping at the end of a movie. Well, the actors can't hear you. It takes a very specific kind of person not to realize the clapping is for us. It's the way we reaffirm the fact that we all, together, just had an amazing experience. TV is more popular, it's more democratic, it's more convenient. I like TV, but I prefer the movies. That's it, folks. Just something I was thinking about on a Friday night. Why not? Have a good weekend.